Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Pro Tips. My name is Wade Acuff and I will be your host for this Photoshop edition of Pro Tips. I hope everybody's doing well. Today we're going to be making some social media assets in the form of short form video. We're going to be doing some editing, animating, let's see what else, adding audio in Photoshop. So all of those things. This will also be a great session for those of you that either one, only like using Photoshop or only have access to Photoshop, and two, those that might be a little bit intimidated by other editing softwares. But let's just, before I forget, some of the stuff we're talking about today will also be used tomorrow in the Adobe Express Pro Tip stream, which I will also be hosting. So it's sort of going to be like a day one and a day two situation. So let's go ahead and get started with today. But first I want to say hello chat. What is up? What's up, Annika? How's it going? RB, Umacorn, Frank. How is everyone doing? I'm going to try to keep up with chat. We got a lot to cover, but let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to start with a new project that's already made for us. I may be going a little bit faster, assuming some of you have worked with the timeline before. So we'll just jump into it. And I'm going to talk about the what video layers are, the do's and don'ts, the why-fors and wherefores of what to do. So I've just created a timeline. I'm going to extend this to about 20 seconds. Before we kick off all of this, I want to show you what we're working towards. Let me see if I can bring this up. Okay. So this is an example of what was made in Photoshop. I'm working with some time-lapse video that I did edit in Premiere. These are older works of mine. But the little flourish of the little line running around, that's what we did in Photoshop. And we've got a little bit of motion graphics coming up right here at the end. So all of that in Photoshop, and we'll pop that up at the end just to show you what's going on. All right, so we're back into Photoshop. Let's talk about bringing in these files. And the reason this is kind of a pro tip is it can be a stumbling block, almost like the word stumbling block was for me just then. So I'm just going to sneak this over so you can see what we're doing. So we've got some video clips over here. And if you drag these to your timeline like you think you would do, I'm just going to grab one of these. And if I drag this down to my timeline, it didn't do, oh, wait a minute. It didn't bring it to the timeline. It made a new composition. So don't drag it to your timeline. That won't work. I don't want to keep that. So I'm going to drag this back to our canvas, see what happens. That did work. And there's a good and bad of this. One, yes, it brought it to our timeline, but you'll notice now that it is a smart object. If you've ever brought photos in or placed photos onto the canvas by dragging them in, it will sometimes make them smart objects as well. The good news is you can transform this. You can make this larger or smaller, do what you need to with it. Otherwise, you can't. You have to make it a smart object. But I prefer to work on the original size, so I don't want that. And another way to bring that in is you can just click down here on your timeline, come up to your clips, bring this in, and then it drags it and adds it to the current video group. To make it its own layer, you have to drag it above in the layer panel and then slide it over. So yeah, that's a good thing. That's another way to do it. But I think the ultimate way is just going over into layers, video layer, new video layer from file, grabbing the one you want, and it will automatically place it to where your playhead is. That's what this thing is that I'm dragging. You're ready to go. Now the other thing with the smart object, it can bog down like you can see this is kind of chugging along here. It will do more so if you have it as a smart layer, smart object. So just be careful about that. So a couple of things to mention here that is not really hidden, but just so that you know, if you right click, you can adjust the speed. And this is what I've done. I'm going to do a kind of a bake the cake situation where we're going to jump into something that's already edited. But you can increase well, you can actually make this slower by increasing the percentage of the speed up to 400% or reducing it to 25%. And all of these, I think I went ahead and made to be quicker. I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit. And if you scrub through, you'll see that there's a little green line coming up. That is the cached frames. So sometimes I'll play or I'll scrub through just to kind of see what the video is going to play like. Down here you can see that it's moving pretty slow. And we can scrub this out a little bit more. But I think you get the idea. Once that fills in, it will play relatively at real time, depending on your machine, of course. So that's a little bit of how to edit this. You can grab a layer and trim these wherever you like, and then delete, however you want to do that. And what else to add? Oh, we can add audio. There's a little audio track down here in Photoshop. So you can click on that layer, add our audio, and let's see, can we hear it? Let's play back. I don't hear anything. Well, it's only because you have to turn on or enable audio playback, and I think we can hear it. Oh, really loud. Really loud, right? Well, if you come down here and right click, you can adjust the volume. You can also add a fade in, fade out, which you'll see in a minute when I jump to the more edited version of this. But we're not done. We're not done with this yet, because I want to talk about, let's talk about blank video layers and what you can do with those. So back to video layer, blank video layer. If you've ever wanted to rotoscope something, like if we brought in video of someone running or video of someone doing, an action or something, it's not a time lapse like these are, this might be the thing for you. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this over. We don't need this whole thing. I'm gonna go ahead and just clip that off. But the way you can use these, super simple way to use it. I'm just gonna press B for the brush. Actually, I'm gonna use this. Here, let's go ahead and start from there. So I'm on my empty or blank video layer, and I'm just going to start drawing. And I'm going to skip ahead one frame using this little step frame button. And now the problem is I'm trying to draw, but I'm way off. So I wanted to match this. I'm going to try to make a little ribbon or something coming across. Well, the way to do that is start your drawing. And then we're going to go to the magic of onion skin, turn it on. I don't like that setting. So you have a bunch of settings here you can change to turn on your onion skinning so you can see a little bit better. And real quickly, I'm going to step through this and we're going to add this little ribbon as we go. And the way this works is every frame is a new drawing. And yes, it can be tedious. And there are other ways to do this in other programs, but we are talking about Photoshop. And this can be cool to just add flair to video or even still photos and you want to make a video out of it. Could be really fun to just, I don't know, use your imagination. Add a bunch of scribbly lines to something. Could be fun. But I'm just going to finish this out real quickly, and then I can show you using some of that duration and expanding the frames through that. Let's see what this playback looks like. It's probably going to be pretty quick. Yeah, look how fast that went. That's like, I mean, it's cool, but it's super fast, right? So if we want to slow that down, we can come in here to our speed and take this to about 50% speed. And let's see what that looks like. I'll scrub through a little bit. Let's see. Okay. Play that back. So now it's actually noticeable. We can turn off onion skinning too now, just to make sure that onion skinning will sometimes bog down your machine as well. But we got a nice little bit of flair going on there. Okay. So up to that point, we've talked about these video layers. You could do a lot more things with this. In fact, when we jump in here to this one, I believe. Hope this is the right file. I've gone ahead and sort of put together a little bit of a timeline here, and I've added more flare and flourishes. I'll pull this over so you can see it a little bit better. And we've got one, I think we've got one coming up here. Yeah, a little ribbon around there, and then this crusty gentleman here gets a little bit of that flare action as well. Okay, so this is what the next part here. We're going to animate essentially our vector object, a vector image, to make a little bit of motion graphics. And I'm going to go ahead and arrange. Let's see, make sure I'm doing this right. Yeah, I'm going to drag my workspace over to kind of just get the end of this, because that's mainly where we're going to be. But I do want to show you this real quick before I forget. Let me scrub this out. Let's see. You can probably hear it anyway. So I have set the audio to fade out at 3 seconds. So at the end of this clip, it should fade. So you hear that piano kind of trail off. There you go. That's what you can do with that. Okay, let's get started with animating. So grabbing our, let's see what we got here. Our ellipse tool. I'm just going to pull this out holding Alt or Option and Shift, making a big shape. And where is it? Well, it's at my playhead. That's fine. I'm just going to drag it over. Drag this down. So my idea here, if you remember the video at the beginning, this just pops up to about right here. And then it will contain the information we want for our social media. I'm going to go ahead and make some changes to this. I'm going to add a stroke, solid line, maybe about 20. Don't like the color. I want it to be gray. There we go. And I might bring the opacity down to about 80. Okay, so I want to animate this, but I also want to have this have an ease in. So we're going to do a manual ease in on this, but let's go ahead and animate it. And important to note, you're not animating the position on this. I wanted this to remain editable for later, so that's why I used a vector shape for this instead of a raster shape. You could use just a raster image if you wanted to, but for vectors you have to animate the mask. So I'm going to pull this to where the background starts to be added in, and then making keyframes is as easy as turning on the stopwatch and then adding frames as you need them. And this is, I'm going to try and, let's see, scrub this out a little bit. Oh, I have to animate it first. So now all you have to do is move this around and it will be officially animated. It's going to scrub this so we can see it, play back in real time. Let's see. It's a little slow, a little fast, I mean, for my purposes. I like that a little bit better. All right, so now we can look at our, using our good friend Enable Onion Skin again, we can see our onion skins, and they're all, let me just zoom in here, they're all spaced evenly. This is how you know that it's there's no smoothing in, there's no ease in or ease out. In this case, we're going to be creating this manually. It's super easy. So I go to the last frame, I come back one frame, add a frame, and then when I grab this end frame and pull it out, it's just increasing the time. You can see up here that the lines of this border are getting closer together. So it starts to get tighter at the end there. And then all we have to do to kind of keep making this ease in is the same thing. Extend this 2 more frames. It's starting to get closer and closer, and then we can do one last time. Extend that, and then you can even see it start to ease in. And then we can just watch the playback after taking onion skin off. There we go. Play that back, and now we've got a smooth motion. I like it. I think it's working. It works for me. Yes, you did see Mingo in the thumbnail for sure. Big fans of Mingo here on Adobe Live. All right, so we've got this little motion graphics thing, and the way we're going to use this tomorrow, we're going to render some of these out, these elements out, and use them in Adobe Express. But you can pre-animate some of the items. This is another tip that you could use. If you wanted to make something super elaborate that you know you're going to watermark or use on every one of your images, you can go ahead and animate these and then save them. I've kept it really simple. I have this that says streaming weekly, and it is going to pop in here. Let's see. I want to center it to my canvas, and then it just animates through its opacity, but you won't see it here because it is a smart object. But if I double click, and like I said, you can have something fairly elaborate if you wanted to. And once we're in here, you can see that all I did was animate the opacity of this. You can't really see it because it's over a transparent background, but I'll just add a layer real quick so you can see what we're talking about. So there you go. But it could be super elaborate, and this is just simple, just for demo's sake. I don't want to save that. All right, so we're back in here. We've got streaming weekly, and then I have a tag that I've animated as well. I'm going to pull this out, center that, probably bring it down. Oh. Bring it down a little bit. And then I have a couple of, let's see, logos that I want to bring in. They're also animated. Got a Behance, which I think this is something I made ages ago. And then I have a Twitch logo. You can bring these down, and you can resize these because they're already smart objects. But I think I'm just, maybe, I'll bring this up slightly. Bring that over, okay. And now they all kind of fade in. Ooh, that one does not fade in. Oh, I brought in the wrong one, I think. Yes, I did. I brought in the wrong one, okay. There we go. Now we've got the one that's animated. But I don't want to leave it at that. I want to do the same thing just to walk through that process again. I want to stagger these out. Bam, bam, bam. So now streaming weekly comes up there. My name, my tags slightly past that. And then these two, I'm going to go ahead and animate while they're together. I'm going to animate their transform in this case because that is what's available to me. I'm going to drag this way down here. I want to do it where I can see it, so I'm going to make sure I can see it with the opacity up. I'm going to add to the transform on both of these. Bring this back. This one I'm going to push down. Using the arrow keys, just tap that down and then see how this plays back. See if I like the speed of it. Speed's fine. Let's go a little bit further on this. All All right, so now we're going to do the same thing that we just did with adding a little bit. I'm going to back this off 1 keyframe, add a new transform, extend this by 1. Same thing up top, and we should get like a real super ease, quick ease. It's not super noticeable, but it's there. And then I am just going to drag these layers out to stagger them. Let's see, get our timing right. I think all of this can move down slightly. Okay. I think that's a little bit better. All right, so now we've pretty much got everything we wanted with this. We've got a little bit of flourish on some of the animated frame-to-frame pieces. You know what? I think this can come down just a little bit. Nope. This can come down just, hello. There we go, streaming weekly, there it is. Bring that down just a little bit. We could also animate all of this, but just to let you know, we're going to be using something closer to this little vector piece. I wonder, let's see what happens. I haven't done this. This is what Live's all about. I'm going to drag this. This is how I made these pre-animated pieces, just dragging the layer of the ellipse up into our library. It did not seem to want to add it. Oh, it did. It did, but I don't know if it's bringing it in with it animated. Let's find out. Let's drag it over and see what happens. Oh, we've got something going here. Let me do this on a file, on an area that I can see it. Let's bring it out. Let's see. Oh, it did, but it scaled everything back, which is fine because it's vector. We could scale it up. So you could now just take that and scale it back up, and your animation would still be there. But then we do run into that. Yeah, there we go. So you can make multiple of these if you wanted to have them kind of stack in. But yes, you can make those a little pre-animated. All right, so if you wanted to render this, and I don't know that we will actually render it, but I will bring up the other video that we did before. It's essentially the same, but if you wanted to render this, you could, a couple of things you could do. I wouldn't recommend something this long to be an animated GIF, but you could come and make this convert to frame animation, and it will do that. And then you have your frame animation, which it's trying to play. Let's see if we can go back. Okay. Oh no, did it destroy it? I think it may have destroyed it. It did. Okay, I just undid it back to where we were. It's fine. But just so you know, you could do that if you wanted to. But to render this video, make sure that your workspace is set to the correct, I think we're at 20 seconds. And then just come over here, go to render video, and choose a name, a selection of other options here. Make sure your document size stays the same. You can change the frame rate. Would not recommend changing it off of the timeline. And then if you wanted to make this a sequence for whatever reason, you could just turn it over to Photoshop image sequence. I just used Adobe, the media encoder, and rendered this out to get our original video here. So this is with the frame by frame animation and our audio already tuned in. But it's great for like little short form things. I think even if you're like, hey, I want to make a post, but I want it to be animated. let me just do this real quick. Let me do this frame by frame thing. Maybe, put some circles on the eyes, make, I don't know, something with your photos. Could be a fun way to do that, and making that, super simple, but also something a little more engaging than just a still. But there you go. We have a visitor. Hello. Yeah. We have a visitor. Do you want to come on? No. Okay. Well, Meeps just showed up, so that must mean it's time to go. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us today. We will be back tomorrow for the Adobe Express Pro Tips stream, where we'll be talking about some of this information. But stick around. There's more to come. We have social media banners coming up next, so stick around for that. And we'll hope to see you tomorrow. And if not, we'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.